Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Alright, without further ado, let us dive straight into the recap of Tsukimichi, Moonlit Fantasy Part 47. Alright guys, in the previous part, Makoto rebuilt the White's orphanage and punished Ryo, the kidnapper of the orphanage children. In this part, the focus of the story shifts to Rotsgard Academy, where Makoto begins training the first and second classes with methods that are far harsher. Now, let us continue to Part 47. The story begins at night, when Makoto stops by his usual bar in Rotsgard. At first, he only intends to drop in for a while, just to say hello while ordering a glass of liquor and a fish dish. However, from that very place, he ends up hearing information about a girl named Sirin. Apparently, rumors are spreading about a special relationship between Makoto and the academy girl. Of course, Makoto considers all of that nothing more than a misunderstanding. Even so, the rumor has apparently brought bad consequences for Sirin. Because of the gossip spreading around, she often receives unpleasant treatment. Long story short, the next day, Makoto goes to the brothel. There, several Gorgons from Asura are present, and it is to them that Makoto asks about Sirin. It turns out that the Gorgons have already heard the rumor as well. Because of that, Makoto asks for their help in spreading the news that his relationship with Sirin is nothing more than friendship. He does not want the misunderstanding to keep spreading and hurt Sirin even more. When he is about to head home, Makoto runs into Izumo. From their conversation, it becomes very clear that Izumo has also already heard the rumor about Makoto and Sirin. There, Izumo describes Sirin as a noble lady from the Empire who is already considered old, still unmarried, avoided by her family, and boring because her life is filled with nothing but basic research on magic incantations. Hearing the way Izumo looks down on Sirin, especially because of her age, Makoto immediately fires back. He reminds Izumo that Sirin is actually quite beautiful, although she may indeed look older when compared to Izumo's fiancée. That jab immediately makes Izumo flustered. He hurriedly defends himself and insists that he is not a lolicon. It is just that the girl he loves happens to be very young. A little while later, their conversation shifts to something else. From there, it is revealed that after the war incident in Kanaoi City, to be exact 1 week later, Izumo and Iroha have already officially become husband and wife. Their marriage is able to happen thanks to Seritsu's intervention. Although there are family problems at first, everything is eventually resolved, until Izumo and Iroha truly get married. However, their relationship has still not been made public, so for now only the people on the inside know about the marriage. Here, Makoto also asks Izumo for help in calming down the rumors that are spreading. After that, Izumo leaves. Afterward, Makoto goes to meet Zara to ask for advice. However, he is instead shocked when he learns that the rumor about his confession of love to Sirin has already become common knowledge in Rotsgard. It is not just certain circles either. Even ordinary townspeople and merchants have already heard about it. Zara casually says that Sirin is now considered the biggest fool in the city for rejecting Makoto, who is known as both a hero and the most successful young merchant. Hearing such an exaggerated assessment, Makoto does not feel proud at all. Instead, he feels creeped out and awkward. Zara and Makoto also spend some time talking about research, and then their conversation continues to Zara's hobby of reading novels. After talking for quite a while, Makoto finally decides to support the research Sirin is working on. However, Zara immediately gives him a serious warning. As soon as she learns that Sirin's field is basic magic incantation research, Zara firmly states that investing in such a fundamental field will not bring in a single coin of profit. Even though Makoto thinks about it for a moment, he still chooses to support the research and plans to leave the matter to Shiki. While they are still absorbed in conversation, the cabinet in the room suddenly swings open very violently. From inside, a woman wearing a lab coat appears. Naturally, Makoto is confused by what happens. Hearing his reaction, Zara explains that the woman in the lab coat is none other than Sirin. Zara is even surprised as well, because Makoto has apparently already forgotten Sirin's face. After that, Makoto apologizes to Sirin because ever since the rumor started spreading, she has become the one who suffers the most from it. However, Sirin also apologizes because in her opinion, she also has some part in why the rumor is able to spread. Not long after that, Sirin immediately asks Makoto about research funding. Makoto then tells her that he truly intends to provide financial support for the research she is currently conducting. After finishing his business with Sirin, Makoto immediately moves on to his final agenda with Zara, which is to gather information about the product quality appraisal team, Nichikitos. The next day, in the training area, Makoto comes to meet his students from the first generation, namely Jin's group and the others. In that place, the second generation has also already gathered, whom Makoto personally selected to become his disciples. Here, Makoto tells them that their training is about to enter the next stage. For the first generation, this time they will face opponents different from the ones they usually fight. If before they more often fought against lizardmen or orcs, now they will face new opponents who are far stronger and will absolutely not hold back in battle. Meanwhile, the second generation does not immediately join the fight. Makoto only tells them to observe the first generation's battle first. After watching and studying how the battle unfolds, Makoto himself will then step in to train the second generation. Not long afterward, Makoto summons two Gorgons, Hatsuharu and Kuro. Their appearance immediately shocks everyone. Among the students, Misura seems to recognize Hatsuharu. He realizes that the woman is one of the prostitutes who works at the brothel, because he often sees her there. Hatsuharu herself does not deny it. Instead, she casually admits that she really does work at the brothel and is also an employee of Kuzunoha. She even lightly offers herself when Misura wants to have some fun. In short, for the first stage, Makoto himself will fight against Hatsuharu and Kuro. The students are ordered to observe the battle in detail. Makoto wants them to truly study the abilities of those two Gorgons. After that, the battle begins. In that fight, Makoto deliberately does not attack seriously. He only deflects the barrage of their attacks, then occasionally launches light attacks at Hatsuharu and Kuro. The two Gorgons themselves appear very skilled at using blunt weapons, especially staffs. Jin and Misura are left shocked when they see just how extraordinary the strength of Hatsuharu and Kuro is. The other students also begin discussing things while observing the flow of the battle. However, the problem is that they are still underestimating what is happening right in front of their eyes. They only discuss Kuro's flying ability and Hatsuharu's strength on the surface, without truly realizing the real threat. In his heart, Makoto immediately gives both of those students an absolute failing score, even though he has intentionally shown the use of his defensive magic quite clearly so that they would realize how heavy Hatsuharu's staff attacks are and how dangerous the special abilities of the Gorgon race are. They completely failed to read the situation. A little while later, the students continue observing while discussing among themselves, while Makoto also keeps paying attention to every comment that comes out of his students' mouths. Once he feels the demonstration is enough, Makoto finally stops the fight. After that, he tells the first generation students to prepare themselves to face Hatsuharu and Kuro directly. Makoto then divides the students into two groups. Jin's group is ordered to immediately arrange their formation and get ready to begin training. On the other side, Shiki is assigned to evaluate the second generation. While Shiki starts explaining to the second generation about the importance of balance between physical ability and magic, the most unexpected thing happens. Without any warning at all of the second generation students suddenly turn into stone. Makoto immediately turns around, and there he discovers that Jin's group from the first generation has also completely become stone statues. The protection against abnormal status effects that Sif has previously prepared turns out to be completely unable to withstand that invisible attack. The battle that is just about to begin immediately ends before even one of them can raise a weapon. This is where the Gorgons use their ability, namely the petrification skill. The students suddenly cannot move at all after being hit by that effect. Of course, Makoto immediately moves to heal the students who have turned into stone. For the second generation, Makoto heals Samilia and Junker first, because he is sure that the two of them are capable of helping heal the other second generation students. Meanwhile, for the first generation, Sif and Amelia are the ones who finally handle the recovery of their friends. After their awareness becomes stable again, Makoto explains that the Gorgon race really does possess the ability to turn people into stone during battle. Because of that, even though the students do not directly participate in the fight, as long as they are still within the range of the Gorgon's attack area, they can still be affected by petrification. Long story short, Makoto's task of teaching the second generation is now finished. All that remains is Jin's group. who keep desperately thinking of a way to break through the deadly combination of Kuro's maneuvers and Hatsuharu's spreading stone curse, while continuously being beaten down without mercy. The next day, the calm atmosphere in the Kuzunoha store suddenly breaks when Jin and his group burst in while shouting excitedly that they have finally understood. Makoto, who is relaxing at that time, can only let out a long sigh. He immediately reminds Jin that it is not his teaching day, and he also questions the manners of his students for causing a commotion so casually in a place of business. After that, Makoto tells them all to go up to the second floor so that they can talk more calmly. Seeing that quite a lot of students have come, Makoto quickly realizes that several second-generation students are not present. Apparently, those who are unable to endure the petrification effect during the previous training have decided to withdraw. Even so, Makoto actually feels relieved, because that means the students who have the potential to cause problems have removed themselves on their own. To deal with the chaos downstairs, Makoto then calls Eris. He leaves the store entirely in Eris's hands, on the grounds that his students have already made the atmosphere a mess. Eris briefly protests because the shop is in the middle of a busy period, but Makoto casually says that Jin and Amelia's meal expenses later can be charged as compensation. Hearing that, Eris immediately becomes excited, while Jin and Amelia can only go weak because they know they are going to be forced to treat Eris. After the atmosphere becomes a little calmer, Makoto begins taking attendance of the second-generation students who are still staying. He wants to make sure who will still be taught, while also getting to know them more deeply, starting from their backgrounds, personalities, and other things that need to be known. Makoto does not want even one student to be overlooked, especially if someone later ends up bringing trouble in the future. Because of that, he feels it is necessary to examine all of them in detail from the very beginning. After finishing the attendance and understanding the backgrounds of the second-generation students, Makoto's attention returns to Jin, who has been wanting to speak for quite some time. With great enthusiasm, Jin says that they have finally managed to uncover the secret behind Hatsuharu's battle the other day, then confidently guesses that defeating the Gorgon is the condition for their graduation. Hearing the innocence of his student, Makoto only laughs quietly in his heart before immediately crushing that assumption. He firmly states that Jin's guess is completely wrong. According to Makoto, the combination of Hatsuharu and Kuro has deadly potential that could even bring down a country, so he is clearly not that cruel to the point of telling his students to defeat monsters of that level. Here, Makoto also explains that from the very beginning, he does not really expect his students to win in a battle against them. He then reveals that the petrification effect of the Gorgon race is actually not only able to turn the body into stone, but can also turn the soul, or even magic, into stone. In short, the innate power of the Gorgon race is indeed at an extremely dangerous level. Makoto also says that he has actually already tried to minimize the petrification effects of the Gorgons, but even so, the students still struggle and their bodies are still affected by it. Everyone is shocked when they hear that explanation. From there, they begin to understand that Hatsuharu and Kuro are indeed on a level that is extremely far above them. Because of that, Makoto once again stresses that this training is not aimed at defeating Hatsuharu or Kuro at all, because that is almost impossible for the students to do. The true goal is much simpler. Makoto wants his students to be able to overcome the petrification effect of the Gorgon race. As long as they can break free from that effect, then the purpose of this training is already considered achieved. In the end, Makoto admits that a threat on the level of Hatsuharu and Kuro would only result in an unreasonable massacre if they were truly treated as enemies that had to be brought down. The main reason he brings Hatsuharu is to train his students' instincts so that they will always remain alert against all kinds of unexpected threats, exactly like the harsh reality they will face as adventurers. In short, the students here continue discussing their training with Makoto. The first-generation students already understand that the people around Makoto are indeed very strong. Up until now, they have also never truly seen Makoto's people fight seriously. This is where Makoto makes it clear that all of his training always has a purpose. He wants his students to understand how harsh real life truly is. In the real world, there are many people who are far stronger than they are, so they must be able to adapt quickly when facing enemies who are above their level. If they cannot adapt, they will not be able to survive. In short, all of that training is done for the sake of the students, so that they can survive in a cruel world. After hearing that explanation, the students understand, and then they become determined to keep moving forward, even though they have to go through training that feels like hell. Long story short, the training begins again. The first generation once again faces Hatsuharu, while the second generation has to face the blue lizards. Both groups enter an extremely harsh, hellish training. Even so, in the end, all of it is still for the students' growth. However, the rematch for the first generation immediately turns into an absolute torture ground. The moment it begins, Jin is sent flying like a soccer ball after his face is struck directly by Hatsuharu's purple kick. On the other side, Yuno, who lets her guard down because she is distracted by Kuro's slashing dance, has to take 3 consecutive staff blows until her red power suit is destroyed and her transformation is cancelled instantly. Meanwhile, Misura's absolute defense also completely collapses. He is absolutely unable to withstand the barrage of super fast attacks coming from every direction, until in the end, he can only become a living punching bag in the middle of the fight. The fate of the back line is no less tragic. Izumo and Sif can only show desperate expressions when they see all of their attack magic being reflected easily by Hatsuharu. Even Dina, who tries to use his trump card in the form of cloning and buffing techniques, still cannot change the situation. Hatsuharu and Kuro easily destroy all of his shadows, making the second generation, who are watching, stare in shock at just how wide the gap in strength between them really is. The suffering of the first generation becomes even more complete when Emilia also fails to avoid Hatsuharu's super heavy staff swing until she ends up becoming the second soccer ball sent flying through the air. In the end, that afternoon closes with a tragic sight that can actually already be predicted from the start. The first generation is brutally beaten down by Hatsuharu, while the second generation is also completely overwhelmed by the blue lizards. So that is the recap of part 47 from Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy. What do you think? Pretty interesting, right? In the middle of widespread rumors and brutal training that feels like hell, Makoto actually shows even more clearly how he prepares the people around him to face the harshness of the real world. For now, it feels like there is nothing else that needs to be explained, because everything has already started moving toward even bigger developments in the next part.